أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته, brothers and sisters. I hope you're doing well, inshallah. Just trying to fix my screen. Um, yes. Oops. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي رب زدني علما. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, brothers and sisters. I hope this finds you well, inshallah. Welcome to tonight's session on work-life balance. And inshallah, in this session today, we will be looking at what work-life balance really means, and we will be exploring a few strategies in terms of how to manage stress, how to cope with stress, given the times that we're currently living. And I understand that a lot of us, subhanAllah, are living in a time, in a very difficult time, and it gets harder for us to cope with studies, to cope with our relationships, to cope with work, while managing other commitments as well. So, without further ado, Bismillah. So, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about His promise that He will be testing us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give good tidings to the patient. This is a beautiful verse from Surah Al-Baqarah. And as we may have read this before and reflected upon this before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising that He will test us. He will test us with fear, whether that fear is fear of exams, whether that fear is fear of dying or fear of animals or certain phobias. He will test us with hunger. We're already seeing that, subhanAllah, so many of our brothers and sisters in Gaza um, are facing um, are facing this challenge of hunger, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us victory over the oppressors. I mean, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us through fear, through phobias, through hunger. Sometimes this hunger could be hunger for greed, hunger for wealth, hunger for influence. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us all with some form of loss. And that loss could be a monetary loss, as Allah says in the Quran, a loss of wealth. It could be a loss of lives. Yani we might lose people we love. Um, in our lives, we might lose certain friends, certain family members, certain relationships, and sometimes we will face a business loss or an economic loss, whatever that loss is. But in any case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us through all of these. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then goes on to say, but give good tidings to the patient. And this is what we really need at this point in life, brothers and sisters. As you can see that we're going through so many trials, subhanAllah. We're seeing devastation of lives. We're seeing so many people struggling to go on and carry on with their daily lives, considering what's happening in Palestine, right? And all of this is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, how do we cope with the current global crisis, and how do we go on, inshallah, coping with this stress and working on ourselves to, inshallah, continue studying for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So, number one is I understand that a lot of students have been facing this crisis. So, begin by looking for triggers that make you feel low, that make you feel overwhelmed when you're studying. So, for example, if you've been stressed about family issues, if you've been stressed about what's happening in Palestine, if you've been stressed about, about your job, about anything, this stress is going to impact your performance and your studies. And this is very natural, very human, and very, very normal. So look for what's bothering you, look for what's making you feel low, identify the trigger that's making you feel demotivated and feel down, especially when it comes to studying. So after you've identified your trigger, next is to take a moment and to remind yourself and to reflect and to renew your intention for studying this blessed knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, despite what's happening around us, despite the difficulties that we're facing, it's important to remember that seeking knowledge is a form of worship, subhanAllah, right? So, you studying Islamic studies, psychology, whether you're studying Islamic finance at IOU or you're studying Arabic, whatever it is you're learning at IOU, this is a form of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that every act is judged by intention, right? So if you are here, if you are learning this blessed science to become a better version of yourself, to help the community, or to become a better slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this whole process, this whole journey of learning is a form of worship. So continue reminding yourself of your intention, continue reflecting on your intention, and continue renewing your sincerity of intention. Because as human beings, it's so easy for us to forget our intentions and lose sight and motivation of our goals. So this is a practice that I encourage a lot of students. Take a moment every single day before you begin your modules. Spend 5 minutes before you start your modules to reflect on your niyyah, on your intention for studying this course. Take a moment to think about how it's going to benefit you in this world, how it's going to benefit you in the next world. And once you reflect and renew your intentions, brothers and sisters, this entire journey becomes beautiful and filled with absolute barakah, inshallah. Next, something else that you can try is making a firm resolve, making a firm promise to yourself, and reminding yourself that changes don't happen overnight, right? We're all here to learn, we're all here to grow, and things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test us with trials. He is going to test us with difficulties even in this journey. So make a commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you're here for His sake, that you're here for His pleasure, that you're here for His love, and keep persevering and seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's aid throughout this process, right? Because since this is a worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not going to be easy, right? Just as waking up for Fajr is not easy, just as praying 5 times a day on time consistently is not easy. Likewise, getting up every day to do your modules, to do your assignments, to do your midterm exams, to do your final exams. All of this is not easy without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So make sure you're turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frequently, you're engaging in adhkars, you're seeking refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're making lots and lots of du'as, because none of this can be achieved without His help, bi'idhnillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in a hadith from Abu Hurairah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was reported to have said, a strong believer is better and is more lovable to Allah than a weak believer. And there is good in everyone, but cherish that which gives you benefit in the hereafter, and seek help from Allah, and do not lose heart. And if anything in the form of trouble comes to you, don't say, if I had not done that, it would have not happened so and so. But say, Allah did that, what He had ordained to do, and your if opens the gate for shaitan. So this is a very, very beautiful hadith narrated by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this shows how a believer must be, right? What the attitude of a believer must be in face of calamities, in face of trials, in and his approach to life in general, right? So let us remind ourselves of this beautiful word of these beautiful words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and seek solace through that, because this journey of learning requires immense strength. It requires immense patience. It requires immense resilience. And you staying here is a reflection of your personal strength. You learning at IOU is a reflection of your patience. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us all in goodness. Ameen. Now, coming to a few practical things that you can try, inshallah, to get yourself motivated in these times is to try to spice things up in terms of your study routine. A lot of students, unfortunately, have a very, very monotonous study routine. So I see a lot of students, for example, who tell me they study from their bedrooms, or they don't have a study desk, or they don't have a study time, and all of this can really impact your motivation, brothers and sisters. So make sure that you have a dedicated study area in your house. It could be, it could be a small corner, doesn't have to be a big room, doesn't have to be a big desk. It could be a little corner in your house that is reserved for your studying. So it could be a study desk, it could be a dining table, but make sure it's not your bedroom, because it gets very, very easy to procrastinate from a place of comfort. So try to look for a change. Maybe set up your study desk in a different room, or maybe try to adjust your study desk near a window so that while you're studying, you can have a look at the beautiful scenery, the beautiful sky outside. Um, Consider setting up study times and study days for each of your courses as well. So, for example, let's say you've taken up 6 courses for this semester. Make sure you're studying. You have a fixed study day and a study time for each course. So let's say Aqidah could be studied on Mondays, fiqh could be studied on Tuesdays, Arabic could be studied on Wednesdays, right? So make a timetable, and it gets a lot easier to stick to those timetables then, inshallah. And while you're working on your study routine, and while you're navigating through the study period in these difficult times, make sure you also take a moment to look after yourself and fill your cup. So um, if you've been feeling overwhelmed by studies and by the current happenings across the world, make sure you're practicing stress management strategies like, for example, box breathing. It's basically a deep breathing exercise that I love to assign to a lot of students. What you technically need to be doing is whenever you feel overwhelmed, just sit down in a comfortable position on a comfortable chair, close your eyes, and inhale for 4 seconds and exhale for 9 seconds. So what you're basically doing is you're taking in deep breaths and calming yourself down. So what deep breathing does, it helps your body relax and cope with stress at hand. So whenever we're stressed, whenever we're feeling anxious, our body activates the sympathetic nervous system, which basically causes a lot of changes in our body. So when our body perceives, when our mind perceives something as stressful, it goes into a flight or a fight response, which you may have already heard of. And what that does, for example, it accelerates our heartbeat, it makes us feel sweaty, it makes us feel dizzy, nauseous, and so on and so forth. And to calm yourself down and to calm your body down out of those automatic responses, taking deep breaths can really, really help you unwind, and it can help you basically calm down to a great extent. So maybe taking 5 deep breaths, 6 deep breaths, and then resuming your course modules can, inshallah, help you improve your focus as well as your concentration levels too. Likewise, taking regular breaks throughout the day. A lot of students, for example, prefer to study 2 modules at the same time without taking a break because they're afraid that if they take a break, they might end up procrastinating. So, what I suggest to these students is that maybe set a reminder on your phone um, to take a break after every 30 minutes. So just take a 5 minute break. Keep a timer on your phone while your break is on. Keep a 5 minute timer on your phone. Maybe take a quick stretch, have a glass of water, or maybe just relax and close your eyes for a few minutes and then resume your module again. Because as human beings, our attention span is very, very limited, right? So if you are pushing yourself to complete a module that's 2 hours long or that's 3 hours long, it gets really hard to pay attention and concentrate. And what a lot of students then do is they end up scrolling through different tabs and getting distracted eventually without taking proper notes. So make sure you take regular breaks while you're studying so that inshallah your focus is renewed. Have a positive mindset. Remind yourself that this is a beautiful journey, and that this is a worship of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right? And finally, have something called a minimum viable day. So, what a minimum viable day is like, basically a day where you don't do much, but you do the bare minimum. So, what you can do on your minimum viable days, your minimum viable days could be, for example, a day before the weekend starts, right? That's when we usually start feeling very relaxed and we start procrastinating. So on those days, try to do the bare minimum, the bare essential that you can. So maybe set 3 priorities or 5 priorities for the day and go on focusing on them as opposed to exhausting yourself with a lot of tasks. So that's what we call a minimum viable day. So these are some strategies that, inshallah, you can practice to stay calm and avoid stress to the best of your ability. Next, again, very, very important, listen to your body. So stress affects and impacts your body significantly, which is why you may have noticed that your body feels very different when you're stressed. Like, for example, you get a lot of headaches, you feel dizzy, you feel nauseous. And so, um, you know, take a moment to reflect on how stress is impacting on your body and listen to your body and try to calm it down. And a few ways that you can do that is by studying at the right space and at the right time. So a lot of us, subhanallah, go on exerting our bodies the entire day, right? We try to complete our work, our assignments, and we try to cram everything up either very, very late in the night and we have difficulty sleeping, or we try to squeeze everything in a short day. So make sure you identify the right time and the right space to study. Look um, for a quiet hour during your day so that you can focus on your studies. This could be, for example, an hour before Fajr. It could be an hour before you go to bed. Look for that quiet, productive hour where you feel relaxed, where you feel refreshed, and at the same time, there's not much distractions around you. So, depending on what kind of a person you are, and depending on your personality type, some people prefer to study in the early morning hours, while some people prefer to study late nights. So, whatever works for you, listen to your body, set a routine, and get going, inshallah. Finally, at the International Open University, we offer plenty of provisions and accommodations for students to make their journey easy at IOU. So if you're ever struggling, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're struggling to catch up with the deadlines, please feel free to reach out to us and request for the support that you require. And inshallah, as a student counselor at IOU, I will be there to support you to the best of my ability. You're welcome to write to me about how you're feeling, whether you need some sort of accommodation, some sort of provision, some sort of extension, or some kind of help. I'm always here to, inshallah, listen to you, and I would be happy to guide you as well. So that's about it, brothers and sisters. Jazakumullahu khairan kathira for joining this session tonight. And if you have any questions at this point in time, you could post in the live chat box, and inshallah, I will be happy to answer them for you. Okay, so I guess we have just one question here. Are these live classes held weekly? No, these live sessions are held on a monthly basis. So every month we have a different topic that we address as part of our webinar. And usually the university sends out reminders via email, via Telegram groups, whenever the session is scheduled for. Jazakallah khair. Okay, so I think we don't have any questions for now. So inshallah, we can end the session here. But inshallah, if you have any further questions or if you need any help, you're welcome to write to me at student.counselor@iou.edu.gm. And jazakumullahu khairan kathira once again for joining me tonight. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ease our affairs. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us under his protection, mercy, and love always. آمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.